Hi guys, Mr. Hescox coming back to you, trying to get this next section. This is the fourth section of chapter 4, and this section is called natural selection. This is Darwin's theory, and the warm-up question was, what is the most common type of fossil? The most common type of fossil is the sedimentary rock. So we're going to talk about Darwin, we're going to talk about natural selection. Your homework is to read 104 to 105, and then there's a couple questions that will pop up later. Darwin was not the first person to come up with the idea of evolution. The first person was Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. Lamarck didn't have a whole lot of data to support his theories, and he came up with some pretty crazy ideas. He believed that these organisms can develop their characteristics over one lifetime. And since this is just one lifetime, it would be very similar to, I don't like being 6'2", I would rather be 6'5", so I stretch myself to 6'5". Make my dreams of playing in the NFL would have been a little lot easier. His perfect example, he believed that giraffes stretch their necks because they have fossils of giraffes that had short necks, and they stretch their necks over time to make long neck giraffes. And we know that it takes millions of years, not just the course of one lifetime. This picture here illustrates how he thought it probably happened. You had a short necked giraffe, and then it just kept reaching and reaching and reaching for the leaves on the trees, and eventually you ended up with long necked giraffes, which is just not how it works. Now, Charles Darwin had a much better idea. He actually made a trip around the world on the HMS Beagle. And he came up with this theory of natural selection. He wrote it in a very famous book called On the Origin of Species, and he actually talked about artificial selection, which we called selective breeding in chapter 3. Now, natural selection means that if you have an offspring, and that offspring has better traits, favorable traits, it will be more likely to survive, and if it survives, it will be more likely to pass on those traits. And we call that survival of the fittest. These are the key principles of survival of the fittest. The first one being overproduction. So overproduction is like rabbits. Rabbits could produce thousands of babies a year if they all survive and have babies. So not all of the rabbits survive because so many things feed on them. So the weaker ones get eaten, or the dumber ones, or the slower ones, or the injured ones. But those are going to take care of that. Now, competition. Because there are more organisms in an area than there is resources, we call that competition. Case in point, I coach football. When there's one pizza left and you have 15 young men, there's competition. They're all fighting for the same resources: food, water, sunlight. And in the case of deer in the fall, I love to watch deer fight over does. Variation is an example of differences in organisms. Dark hair, light hair, maybe a little bit thicker fur that helps an organism in the cold, where a little bit longer claws might help a different organism. Some variations can become adaptations. Survival of the fittest. If you are the best adapted, if you're faster, if you're stronger, if you're smarter, if your fur allows you to blend in a little bit better, you are more likely to survive, you are more likely to pass on your genes and genetics, and then you will continue on in your species. As time happens, survival of the fittest and variation will cause new favorable adaptations to pass on to the offspring. So here's a picture of these. Notice here we have tadpoles, lots and lots and lots and lots of tadpoles. Not all the tadpoles are going to survive into frogs. That's overproduction. Here we have cattle, big spots, little spots, black spots, white spots. Because they're all different, but all cattle, we call this variation. Here we have two deer fighting. The only reason the two deer fight is over mates. So this is competition. Now here is a picture of Darwin's finches. On the middle of the Galapagos Islands, he actually did a lot of studies with finches and tortoises. And somewhere along the line, one type of finch evolved into many types of finches. And then the last one, only the strongest will survive. And those strong animals will take down the weaker animals and kill them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you need me, email me. And in the meantime, you guys be good, be safe. I'm Mr. Hescox. Thank you.